And she did this thing where she would teach us something to travel across the floor. You would do it, and then she would say, and now dance it. And it sort of opened up this thing of what's a technical exercise into just really breathing a spirit into it, or bringing it to life, or kind of surrendering to the form. And just something else opened up in that space. And that I really loved.
Hello, my name is Hélène Perez and you're listening to Are You an Artist? I am so happy today to share this episode with Laura Doehler, whom I already interviewed 6 months ago but forgot to plug her microphone. So Laura came again with her smile and generosity to speak about dance and collaborations, nature and chaos, and creating the space to feel.
Well, I won't tell anybody about the film unless you're already secretly recording.
I am?
No!
That will be the introduction.
Okay. Introduction.
Laura. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, I have written another letter.
You've written?
Another letter. Yeah. Dear Laura, first, I am so sorry that nobody will hear our first recording. Because I still remember our conversation and you said very clever philosophical things about life. Sadly, I didn't plug your microphone. It was the very beginning of this podcast. At least you get to have another letter. We first met during a shared practice session, which you co-created and where anyone can, I quote your website, because I did my research, explore personal curiosities in movement and dancing. Even if you didn't know me, you hugged me. I felt so welcomed and accepted, and you also invited me to your birthday.
Ooh.
You are the incarnation of kindness, generosity, but also curiosity and openness. I'm so excited about this episode. Laura, are you an artist?
Oh, Eileen. Am I an artist? Is that the actual question?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's the whole podcast point.
Wow. Recently in a project, there were 2 people who said, oh, I know like an artist that's like you, or, the art that you're making. And I was like, oh my God, they think I'm an artist. I must be an artist then.
Wow.
So that was quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like an artist now.
Since they say that.
Yeah, I don't think I really, I don't think of producing art as such. I just keep doing things. And I guess they are sort of put into the bracket of artistic products. But they're also sort of fringy. They come into education, they come into social encounters, or kind of making things happen together with other people. So I'd like to think about the things that happen in the thing rather than if it's art or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, how would you define art? What's your perception of?
That's a difficult question. I'd like to say next one. I don't really know anymore, to be honest. I heard an interesting podcast around culture and I guess the situating of art within culture. It's kind of expanding the sort of creative potentials that we anyway already have going in our lives, and perhaps bringing them more as a kind of subject or as a light or as its own thing rather than just a sort of habitual encounter. But I don't know. I don't think I'm a huge fan of thinking of art because it kind of feels like there's a bit of a separation. Does that make sense?
From the not art.
From the not art?
Yeah.
Or it sort of lifts it up into something special. And when you say you're an artist, it's like something special. And I'd like to think everybody is an artist. And I'd like to make people aware that they all can just tap into that. Yeah.
Do you remember when you started to dance? As a young Lara.
It's so nice to see you across the chair like this.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to describe to the listeners that the setup in my room is on a chair. So there is a chair between the two speakers.
Yeah. And I've got your face right on the back of the chair. And it's like sparkling eyes coming out. Do you remember when you started to dance?
So do you?
It's delicious. I remember my first sort of encounters with dance. I don't remember like my first day of dancing or something like this. I sort of went to a creative child dance group to begin with, and I always really enjoyed it, which was sort of a mix between a bit of ballet and a bit of just sort of improvisation, being trees and wafting through people, or being little animals, or I don't know, reincarnating Peter and the wolf. So there were these creative ways of just being in movement and connecting, and I think that was probably a really first joyful encounter with dance that isn't just learning to discipline your body in a way, but has a sort of free spirit. And that I really loved. I also loved the technical side of it. It's also, I've always enjoyed that very much, to understand your body and learn to tap into its resources and coordinate it and make something happen. So yeah, that were my beginnings in Leipzig in Germany when I was, I don't know, 7?
Okay.
When I was 7 years old. Yeah.
And when did you decide to train in dance?
Well, I basically had the sort of the journey was being in this creative dance space. And then when I was 12, I believe, I did for a few years ballet school because I got interested. That I also really enjoyed. But then it became a choice between just ballet or just being a normal teenager and having a life sort of thing. And I made the choice of being a teenager and staying with my school and with my friends and that sort of thing. And then I changed over to what was a kind of semi-professional dance theater company who were all students. And I kind of slid into that quite soon, being like 14 years old or something. So I was the little chicken in the group, which was really lovely and lots of wonderful memories. And there was a teacher, Jonna Huttunen, at some point from Finland, who was sort of, our teacher and choreographer at the time. And she did this thing where she would teach us something to travel across the floor. You would do it, and then she would say, and now dance it. And it sort of opened up this thing of what's a technical exercise into just really breathing a spirit into it, or bringing it to life, or kind of surrendering to the form, and just something else opened up in that space. And that I really loved. And she was the one who said, actually you could study this if you wanted to study that. Yeah, you could do that. You could apply at a dance school and do that. So that's what I did. So I think in many ways, thank you to Jonna Huttunen for inspiring me to do that.
And why coming to London?
Yeah, and then I came to London. So I did this audition of the Laban School. At the time, I remember there weren't many sort of dance schools like that. Like now, I think there's more and different kind of opportunities. So in Germany, I didn't really find one that I liked, and I also kind of wanted to go away. And I just really applied at Laban. And they gave me a scholarship, which was kind of cool. So then I kind of said, yeah, take it. Great.
Cool.
Even though I hardly understood that I had a scholarship because my English was really bad.
Oh, was it too? Mine too, when I arrived. Really not good.
Yeah. But it's like, we come from school and we think we're never going to use it anyway because we're a little...
And I came from a French school, so even worse.
I know. Yeah. And then you learn. You come here and you do it. Yeah.
How was it to change country and everything?
Oh, well, I have to think back. I had another really good advice from my friend Bella, who went to be in the States when she was a student, she said the one thing you're not allowed to do is to not speak because you're afraid of saying something stupid. So just keep talking, say stupid things, and just get it out one way or another. So that I kind of took to heart. So I just talked however I could somehow make sense of the words and understood what I understood, as we do in these processes. And also, I feel like, God, I was so naive in so many ways. But it's very helpful because you're just like, yeah, we'll just do that and get on with it, which I think is quite different today. I think today we've got more control with our sort of technologies. So this sort of like, yeah, let's just do it and see what happens. I think that is not the way it used to be. And yeah, I mean...
And then you train? After
training,
yeah.
So we're sketching the life.
It's Laura's biography.
Well, I think for the first year, I really said, I'm not going to stay here. This is just dreadful.
Okay.
Didn't like the school. Didn't like London. I was like, what is this place? Second year, I realized I hadn't changed school, so I kind of made the choice to stay, but it was probably just being a bit lazy and missed the opportunity. And then also in the second year, the studies really just got stronger. In the first year, there was a lot of sort of preparatory slowness, which in hindsight, I appreciate, but then it really went much more technically challenging, and that I enjoyed. And yeah, graduated feeling strong and able to go out perhaps even as a dancer for a bit and as a choreographer. Because I think I joined initially because I was thinking, yeah, I'll do choreography. Because in my mind, I thought, well, I missed the train to be a ballet dancer, so nobody in the world would hire me, all right? That was my idea. And then when I came out on the other side, I thought, no, actually, there is a market, there's a way I could do this. And I did do that for a few years. I worked as a dancer, did some projects. And then also I had a child very soon after. I was like, yeah, let's just do everything.
Wow.
So I graduated 2004, and 2007 I had my child, which was really lovely and wonderful. But I feel like I've developed a life as a sort of dance artist that is perhaps a bit more on the fringe. So I didn't quite tap into the professional dancer in the way that I would have without having a child. So I couldn't just go anywhere across the world and just dance, which it kind of demands that commitment, no? So I did travel a bit, and I had also some wonderful support from companies with helping me with childcare or giving me kind of a bit of extra work or responsibility so I could make it happen. I also had people who said they would engage me and then didn't because I had a child, and they realized it would mean childcare and they are not ready to do that. Yeah, that was an interesting experience. And I guess at some point I kind of made the choice to be more in London, because when a child grows up, they go to school, so you can't just take them anywhere for the whole time. The time comes, you have to become a bit more...
Is that around that time that you created Exit Map? Or?
Oh, I created Exit Map right at the start, 2004.
Okay.
Like right away, that was my first thing. But then in the beginning, it was really like making choreography that goes on like small stages or doing some sort of funky interventions.
So Exit Map was like a company, or?
It was a name. It wasn't even a company, but it was a name that quite quickly I said is kind of a platform for collaborative processes. I worked a lot with a friend, Bettina, and Jaime. They were together at the time, who was a fashion designer and a photographer. So we did lots of sort of intervention things, performative encounters at the Fringe or in festivals or these sort of things. So I just used Exit Map as a name to have a kind of identity as an artist, I guess. But it's only in 2012, I started the shared practice. And with the shared practice, I sort of put into being something that really consistently happened. And that then also had that name, Exit Map, attached. And I feel like that's when Exit Map kind of really had an identity because of something that was continuously happening.
So shared practice has been existing for like 12 years.
Yeah, since a long time.
And what was where did desire come from?
Come from. Yes. So I did my MA in performance making at Goldsmiths. And I distinctly remember my course leader, Anna, first saying, well, don't you think you can come here and just roll on the floor for hours and then kind of start to imagine what you could possibly do for your next project? When you come here, you work. When you enter the studio, you know what you're going to do. And then you do that. So it really had a very kind of production-focused drill, which was quite different the way that dancers work. And also interesting because Anna first is a dancer by background or has been working with that for a long time. So I guess in some ways she must have just made up her mind at some point that that's not going to work. And I really struggled with that MA, mainly because I was working a lot, but also because I didn't quite feel part of the cohort. And I had my problems with Anna first as well, who's a wonderful person for sure. But at the time it was a bit difficult. And the sort of final graduation work nearly collapsed. And then it turned out really well, but it was hard. So when I came out from the MA, I thought, I need space to roll on the floor for hours and hours and not have a production-focused mind attached to it. So I can really figure out what I'm actually doing.
Wow.
Because I haven't figured out anything. I've just done this course for 2 years. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. Just don't know. I need a moment to just be, digest, reflect, become aware of what is, and then allow that to be what it is. And then I can make something of it, perhaps. But first I need to know what I have, and I don't know what I have. So that was the beginning of the shared practice, of sort of hiring a studio and going like, okay, let me just be here. And then realizing actually it's better if there's other people who have the same question in the space at the same time. Took a bit of time to develop it, and also referencing here Anne-Gaelle Thiriot and Tania Soubry, also Fernanda Muniz Newsome, who were all part of this dialogue on how to develop that practice. Because in the beginning it was like, okay, somebody going to narrate it and constantly say, this is what I'm doing, but you can do whatever you want to do, sort of thing. Like we played around with different formats.
And when was your discovery of somatic practices? Was it straight from studying at Laban? Or was it coming a bit later? And
I would say my greatest sort of link to somatic practices is probably contact improvisation.
Okay.
And that I've sort of deepened as an inquiry when I was at Laban already.
Okay.
But then continued to have that as a practice. And it's interesting because of all the fields of dance, contact improvisation is really the one that offers a practice, if you think about it. So where is the practice of contemporary dance, please? I mean, you have it by taking class.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't just go in a studio and practice your dance. Like, you can't afford it to begin with. Or an improvisation practice. And there's other formats like Barbara Dilley's contemplative dance practice, very similar to the shared practice. But they aren't very sort of spread or available in the way that I think they perhaps should be. You have ecstatic dance or 5 rhythms.
What do you think about ecstatic dance?
I'm glad you're asking me ecstatic dance and not 5 rhythms, because I still haven't done 5 rhythms.
Okay, me neither.
Shall we do it together?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it together, because it's kind of weird that
Because
we haven't done it yet.
because I heard so much about it as well.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's not, it's other people. It's another sort of space.
Yeah.
But I think very important to get to know. And ecstatic dance, ecstatic dance effectively is like sober clubbing, which is great.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm so much into clubbing because I guess personally I enjoy to have a wider movement spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And even though in ecstatic dance you can do whatever you want to, it kind of has a sort of clubbing feel to it.
Mm.
And in that way, it can also just sometimes feel like lots of people dancing next to each other rather than with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, it's its own scene and it's valid. And I've had some good encounters. I was teaching the introduction to it a couple of times.
Okay.
Maybe
I should go to your class where you are and teaching introduction, because the one I've been, I didn't feel...
Yeah, connected in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was just at the beginning we just do these random arm movements and legs movement to warm up the body, but then I was really not in my body. So...
Yeah. Yeah, and they asked me initially to come in and do an introduction because of the contact improvisation.
Yeah.
So to bring something in where people could connect. And that worked quite well because then actually people were dancing with each other rather than all on their or next to each other.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting shift. But yeah, I haven't done it. But I can ask them if they would like me to do it again, and then we go together.
Wow, 2 things we can do together.
Yes, lovely. Yeah, we're making plans.
This podcast is just catching up of everything we need to do. Yeah, where do you get your inspirations from? Because I feel like you've got such a drive. You always have projects. You have so many things you want to do, and
I think we probably all have. Well, no, that's not really true. There are people who say I'm not creative. They really are out there. Actually, remembering that I feel like I've sort of touched on that questions years ago, wondering how I could open up and tap into this kind of flow of inspiration and creativity, because I didn't quite have that available, which is really funny because you have ideas somehow, or I was in the place of having ideas, thinking, I could do this, I could do that, but I don't know how to go about it. Working with feeling inadequate, like loads of things that are kind of in the way where you go like, I don't know how to hold that space. And I think it kind of, in some ways, it just grows once you ask the question. You set it as an intention and it grows. And I feel like a lot has to do with a shared practice, because it really just is a space where you don't produce anything, but you can just become aware of what is there. And when you allow things to just be there without having to do anything with it, you go like, oh, there's so many things I could do with that, right? So it kind of opens up opportunities, and then you also opens up conversations with other people, I guess. So it's a dream space or something that is the mulch, the compost where things grow from. It's my new favorite words, mulch and compost. Yeah. And I also think there's a lot of things that are actually extremely easy to just do.
For example?
Well, it's the things, like I feel like a lot of my work concerns itself with doing the things that actually are just quite natural. Is just because we are quite unnatural by now, we don't do them anymore. So I'm just reminding people that you could do these things, and they go like, oh my God, like taking some time to not produce anything.
Yeah.
That should be quite normal. Like a dream space and an inspiration
And
space.
I think it should be quite protected as well, because the brain needs that.
Yeah. Rest. You know, it's like, we call it radical rest to make it sound exciting, but it's just rest. You know,
You
just
can
sleep a little bit more. And again, in the shared practice, people come and sleep, you know,
That's
because
true.
they realize, I just need to rest. So that's what they do. So they take that for themselves.
Yeah.
Now my projects are, hey, spend some time in nature.
Yeah.
Honestly, we've created a space where there is no nature, because otherwise we would just be in nature.
True.
So now we've got to go back to nature, to go like, oh, actually, it's something that belongs to me. And if I can put these things together and I can root a bit of belonging through nature, I'm quite okay, actually. You know, because time is not rushed and space is not A to B, and everything just sort of decompresses, and you can take a breath and go like, oh, that's okay. And that's just going to nature, you know, and talking a bit about it and finding lenses to be in that. But in some ways, it's just really that.
And what's your relationship to your body? Speaking about nature and natural things and...
My relationship to my body.
Yeah, as a dancer, as a woman, as all this.
Yeah. Well, it changes. I change. It's interesting. It rings as a very intimate question at this moment, because I think I also have personal questions about sexuality, which is interesting, I think, for me right now. And in some ways, I've got sort of things working through and circulating to, again, just allowing my body to be what it is and trying to shed the sort of role thinking away from it. And yeah, we've highly socialized it and put it into norms.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely also a space where being a mover or having the ability to really express myself through my body, feeling a power because of my body. I also tap into power in some ways, privilege in another way. Also feeling how my body is somehow, you know, an abled body, a white body. You know, it fits in some spaces, it doesn't fit in other spaces. So it's kind of feeling that and unraveling it. And I think as a society, we're doing that together at this point. And I'm very grateful to live in London in that respect, because it really allows for, just, blurring the edges and connecting to people who are very different or seemingly different or from different cultural backgrounds. And at the same time, also being really aware how we still, however, quite separated and how we do not share everything that we want to share. So, I don't know, I guess it's my questions. And then my other little thing that I do is I wake up in the morning and I do my little morning meditation in bed as I wake up. It's just to go like, wow, this is me. This is me here now. I've got another day. Cool.
Wow.
So that's my kind of start of the day. Not, it doesn't happen every day, but this morning, for instance, I woke up realizing how my mind was already doing all the work. And I don't want that. You know this state when you...
Yeah, I have it when I do my yoga in the morning.
Yeah?
And I'm just like, oh, and then I need to be quick because there is so much, there is this and that. Yeah.
But like with sleep, it's this thing that before I realize I'm awake, my brain is thinking the list. You know what I mean? Like I'm coming into consciousness to basically look at my brain already ticking the boxes. You know, that's the thing. And that's the thing I don't want. I don't want to feel like I'm possessed by my agenda.
The calendar. No!
Get out of my brain.
Do you dream a lot?
I dream a fair bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you dream?
Yeah, especially these nights. A lot of dreams. Yeah. Very strong. A lot of travels. I have to go on the train, I have to walk, I have to go there.
Yeah, they are wonderfully elusive things. I find it curious how I feel like I do know what my dreams are really all about. Like, you know, when you have these Freudian studies of dream analytics or something, I'm like,
you don't need all that theory.
What's the question? Like, I know what it is.
Exactly.
It seems obvious.
Yeah.
But, you know, that maybe that's good. Maybe other people don't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe today also we have more tools than before because, yeah, it's also therapies and things is something much more accepted and, yeah, taking time to reflect about how you work. I don't know how it was before. Obviously, I wasn't there, but...
Maybe my brain is just being obvious. I think sometimes I can be quite obvious.
Me too. Just my face is so expressive. That's really something. I can't hide anything, and people know before me what I feel, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to accept that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna change. So,
yeah.
What's the thing that you've created that you're the most proud of?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't think there's really like a most proud of. It's kind of the question we want to ask, like, what's your favorite music and things. I don't think it's like there isn't really one top.
You don't have one favorite music?
No, everything sort of shifts and changes. Just goes like... I do have like one piece of music I really love and adore is the Keith Jarrett Cologne concert. That's probably one that stayed with me since childhood, and I can still listen to that and go like, oh, it's so nice. I think, yeah, I would say this sort of recent commission I did, but, you know, it's also very recent, so that's why it's strong, I guess. But it really feels like I've managed to, well, really call something into being. So it's my own application, it's my own project that I've kind of designed. And very often my processes are very collaborative. And I've sort of created this call for students from the place to come to this community garden in Peckham, so that the volunteers, it's a voluntary run organization, could reflect with the students how movement enables conversations around ownership, authorship, collective imagination, how they want to create what they want to create, what are the boundaries, the limits, and so on, right? Because there's something in movement that can really connect you to your sense of self or your sense of shared self or the extension from yourself into your environment, a sort of ecological community. The boundaries, the resistances you have, the questions, the fears, the cultural imprint, and all these things, they are with us, right? And in movement we can somehow bring in awareness and then again also feed a conversation. So it's kind of like an in and out between moving and talking. And yeah, I think it's been really just wonderful to do that. That's really about it. It's been amazing to have these students, second year BA, very young students, who initially really mainly joined because they said, I just need to get out and be in a garden. I need to connect to nature. That was sort of their main argument, to go like, yeah, I just want to feel that. And that also is at the core of that proposition, is to say, why nature? What is it that nature gives us? What is body to land? And I guess build a sort of wider collectivity. And then to think also really, what is it to think from body to land to organization? So how does that then impact the way that we collaborate and organize ourselves? What is participation versus volunteering, for example? What's the ownership? Because there's this really, like, this place is, fell in love with it. It's really very beautiful because people just walk in on a Sunday and they say, I've never done any gardening, but I just want to do some gardening. And then they just do some gardening. Somebody's there, there's people around. There's these kind of different layers of knowledge that just spread because you talk to people and something happens. Very improvised. And that's wonderful, because it the spirit of improvisation that we love so much, being the core of this organization, this is how it works, is improvisation. And that's very rare, and to really see what it brings and opens up. Like, the gardens are astoundingly beautiful because they're not organized. You know, they've got loads of different layers and things, and you can see something sort of opened up, or in the process of, and something else that's kind of, you know, with a question mark. And right now we've got spring. It's just, it's gorgeous.
Kind of the beauty of chaos in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and then making peace with the chaos, and making peace with the not knowing.
Exactly. It reminds me, I read a book about chaos, and quite a scientific book, so I didn't understand most of the things. But it's really interesting how they were saying that we like to think that we know about things, but we never quite know. It's always a bit chaotic. Even like, we draw maps, but it's just an estimation. It's not precise. Like, we can't know where the land stops. Like, it's just, everything is chaos. And I found that very beautiful. How
And same in physics, there's this concept, forgot the name of it.
Gravity?
No, it's something on sort of energy exchange. Like, there isn't a straight A to B energy exchange.
Oh, yeah.
It will always seep out, It's always, like, if you imagine the warmth will go and spread out between A and B. It's not going to wander just straight line from A to B. And that's the thing about organization. We've organized our lives A to B. That's our human organization mode. And what is it to understand that it isn't just an A to B?
It's even this thing of time being linear, like past, present, future, and all of this.
Yeah. So giving that space for these complexities, and what are the complexities? What is it to come into the gardens and feel this change of time, this change of space, and feeling sometimes like having space to feel, go like, oh, I need to just do that right now, because it just spatially affects your body, which is fascinating as well. So these processes, they were really wonderful. And then also having the students sort of step by step, day by day, just going deeper in it and going like, oh my God, this thing's opening up, and it's wonderful. And the people who joined us were also really, just very grateful and taken by making sense in this way. And at the same time also, of course, realizing that this organization isn't just perfect.
It's not?
No.
Oh.
It's chaotic. And accepting that and making peace with that. And No. So that's still staying with me. It's also not quite closed as a project.
Mm.
And the question, I guess, is how to make more of that.
Okay.
And what I love is like when you really do what you want to do, you meet all the people who want to do what you want to do. Or you engage in these conversations about how there's more of this.
Yeah.
Or what else this is. And it just naturally grows. And that's really lovely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you like the most about teaching?
Mm.
Do you remember your first class? The first time you were teaching dance? Ever?
Oh dear. I worked with an organization, Perform Dance, in Germany quite a lot, teaching teenagers. And that was probably, sort of 15 years ago. No, more, 20 years ago. I think these were probably my first teaching encounters. Probably quite random at the time. I think teaching is a very, as you know, not grateful, but people are grateful for what you give them. So it's a very rewarding, that's the term. It's a very rewarding practice. Like you feel valued and people really somehow make it a thing. Like it exists in the world for something that's positive. And I think that's really beautiful. And I mean, all these processes that we have in our bodies. The thing is, like, I find teaching by now, sometimes I feel like I'm cheating because it's so easy. And of course, it's not so easy. But really, at the core, if you get anybody to move, they're pretty instantly happy, you know? So in some ways, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But, getting people to move and to sort of embark on their journey is its own facilitation. Most of the time you teach people that want to be taught, however, so in that way it's not that hard either. And I think a big sort of question for me is how to get to the people who don't give it value or to somehow, and then sort of instilling this change in the body is really lovely, but especially I think for me is this sense making of life, I guess, when people start to understand why their movement is a kind of state of aliveness or feeding aliveness or a reflector of life in a way through these connections, the, developmental patterns. Like they're literally our spectrum of, I'm moving as I'm talking, our spectrum of expanding into the world. This is how we connect to the world and to ourselves, is through our bodies. And when you start to go like, oh my God, hands can take something, touch things, then it's really coming back to that as your beingness. It's just gorgeous. Yeah.
And what is your strength?
What is my strength? I think more and more I can really trust that I know. Don't even quite know how to say what I know, because it's an embodied kind of state.
Yeah.
I can read bodies well, as you do, I think, as well. You can just see, you can scan a body and you can see connections and make sense. You can see when somebody's closed or retreating or, not a bit deflating, or again, it's these kind of nearly like, how are you doing kind of terms. And then you can, just gently feed things in a little and go like, hey, you know, a head tail, and something opens up and there's more space for, just being in this world, I guess. And I guess this sense of knowing also then, of course, is a bit of just confidence and being relaxed with people, being focused, but also playful and encouraging. I think these are sort of ingredients that are all important. If you have a teacher, for instance, who is a little bit tense, it can destroy the whole thing, you know?
I remember these teachers. You just mentioned. I was like, no.
You're like, oh God. Yeah. And somebody who can acknowledge that, you know, we've all got our limits and you go as far as you go. So it's somehow being at ease with that. So I think for me also it really matters as a teacher that the person has a positive journey. Because there's other teachers who will just really drill and make you feel the pain of things. And that's definitely not my teaching. I don't think there's a lot of positive learning that happens from there. No? I mean, it's good to know, you know, like in yoga, for instance, you know, you hold things and you commit to things, but you can also really feel the strength that comes from it.
Yeah.
Rather than going like, you just have to hang in that pose forever.
Be on your head.
Yeah, suffer. And then that's like, yeah. So I don't know if that's... What's your strength? What's your strength as a teacher?
That's a good question.
Yeah, you just asked me that question. Bouncing it back to you.
Because I only teach one-to-one classes, I think my curiosity.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and especially when I teach these like young 12 years old future ladies, and they ask me very random questions, and I'm not scared of not knowing and then trying to research, or I really like.
Yeah.
Then their curiosity drives my curiosity, and it's just, we're feeding each other in a way.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because, you know, sort of bringing it to the thing of saying it's this sense of knowing, because I think with the knowing, it also really goes the not knowing. It's to go like, okay, we're just gonna, we feel our way through. Like there's a trust that we can figure it out.
Yeah, and also I feel like a lot of people are, like a lot of teachers are not comfortable with saying I don't know. And then especially when I see teachers who pretend to, you can see that they pretend to know, or they just, I don't know. Then I know as a student I lose it, the interest and everything, because I think I value honesty a lot. And yes, for me the best teachers are the ones who are just honest also.
Yeah, and real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you like to be better at as a human being?
Oh. I think I would like to be better at studying. That's really something where I'd like to develop a better practice. Yeah, I think the sort of ability to focus. Also, reading really quickly tires me out, which I think has something to do with my eyes. So to be able to sort of absorb new information, I just get really quickly tired. I mean, now I listen to a lot of things, and that's an interesting change in our sort of technological stepping stones. But yeah, that sense of clarity, having a bit more clarity. And perhaps there's something about my lifestyle that I think is quite a bit scattered. And I enjoy the scatteredness of it. It's like living in a cooperative. There's always something happens and it sort of diverts. And there is a very improvised character thing, which I love because it keeps you a bit on your toes and something comes in, you know, a bit like a jazz piece of music. It keeps moving around and then something else comes in. And that is a sort of state I enjoy. But I also would like to have these moments where I can tune down the distractions and be more focused in particular input. And go like, no, this I want now to be with and to do that for longer than I currently do.
And do you get distracted with your phone?
Oh, I have a good technique.
Okay. Teach us.
Well, actually, it's not a technique. It's a very bad phone.
Oh.
So, which it works though, because I have all the features available when I need them. It just takes time. And because things take quite a lot of time, like when I want to write a message, I have to switch on this magnifying lens on my phone to get certain letters because I can't tap them. So it takes time. And when it takes time, you don't want to write a message all the time. You just don't. You try to do it as little as possible. And that really scales down my, like, oh yeah, this is just sort of chatty brain that sends things back and forth. And that's, I think that works quite well.
Good.
Actually. I'm quite happy about it. And it's funny because my son had a phone like this. And then at some point he got a better phone. And when he sees my phone now, he says, oh, God, yeah, I totally remember that. He's the one who installed the magnifying glass because he's like, I know how to deal with it. But then we had a conversation and he said, yeah, it's true. It might be an idea to get back to that.
Yeah.
Because it's just really what keeps your phone usage down. Because having a phone, which is what we considered, that has far less features. So like you wouldn't have Google Maps on it, for instance, or...
I would die.
Sometimes you need them.
I would
That's
get lost in the river.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so bad with your orientation.
Yeah. So it's good to have them.
Yeah, but it's good also to learn to live without.
Yeah, exactly. But it is, I think, one of our main and greatest challenges is our technological bodies in some ways. It's nice that, I was speaking to my friend Ben, who kind of keeps going on about how these tools, we had the Stone Age, how these tools define the way that we are in the world. And they have throughout time. So we refer to the Stone Age because it's so significant. And now we're in this technological age, and it really just changes entirely the way that we are in the world.
True.
And it's a new identity. So it's a bit like an identity crisis, if you want to. But you could also say it's an opportunity. But yeah, we just got to learn how to be with it. And I think, as we all know, it produces a kind of situation that is a bit like having a virus. I find,
always back to COVID.
I think my my new sort of favorite word, it's not my favorite word, but dromology describes the time and space compression that technological advances put us into the situation of, if that's the way to say it, because we can be anywhere at any time. Mm-mm. And there's a speed attached to it. And it's interesting in this movement thinking how time and speed are intrinsically linked in movement. Experientially, they are not, you can't take them apart. We take them apart conceptually. We think of time, and then we think of space. But if you speed up one, it affects the other. So our sense and experience of space is also hugely impacted by the kind of speeding up and experience of time that we have. And And that I think is interesting to somehow understand, because what I feel like my sort of empathetic or affect sense making of how we are in this world now is that I feel like we are hugely compressed. Like we're just, and really confused. It's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
That is so true.
It's a really high frequency of things going round, 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 round. And I feel like it's a physical compression. It's a brain that just turns a bit like, oh my God.
That's why we need to move.
Yeah, or just, just having this sort of nature body space where time and space are not like that.
If you were an animal.
What kind of animal? I think right now, because I've worked so much in the garden, could be something like a butterfly.
Oh.
Yeah, something that's, because they're so light. And also, apparently, if I'm getting it right together in my mind now, spirit, the term spirit, is linked to air. Because it's us breathing that makes us alive. So it's the spirit that comes into being because of breath and air. And the butterfly is also somewhere in the word there of air and breath. Like, how do you say it? Etymologically speaking. Can't even say
So
that
clever.
word. Etymologically speaking.
Which color would you be?
Oh, I love a nice blue. But yeah, they're all gorgeous. And in some ways their heads are so fluffy. Kind of goes with my hair.
That's so true.
Like
That's so true.
sprouts out everywhere.
Wow.
Actually, and you know what? It used to be my original password to all my sort of
Butterfly?
yeah, so my first email, which I still have, is L_Cubus. In Cubus is the cube, right? So I created that with my sister when I was, I don't know, 15 or 16. Young, but nowadays you create it when you're 4 years old. And then as a password, I said, oh, it's a butterfly. It's a butterfly in a cube.
Oh.
That was kind of the sense making.
Back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning. Oh my God, it's a bit early to go back to the beginning. But then I just go on again.
Oh, man.
I just do life over and over. Yeah.
And what makes you happy?
Being alive and feeling alive. I think that's good. Chocolate. My son. Yeah. I think these days, there's a big appreciation for being alive and being okay. Because there's so much just horrendous war scenes around the world. They're just unimaginable. So I guess coming back to that. And I've always been a fan of basics. So keeping it pretty simple.
Any last recommendation? Book, film, dance piece, podcast, apart from this one, which is so good.
Yes, this is the best podcast. Come back for more. Online book, I've enjoyed The Midnight Burger, which is just a bit queer and funky. I enjoyed reading The Spell of the Sensuous.
Do you read mostly novels or non-fiction?
I think The Spell of the Sensuous is probably on it in this. It's quite academic, really, but it also has a lot of sort of philosophical musings on how to make sense of the world. So it's like philosophy mixed with a sort of belly of research. Yeah, that I enjoy. As a mix, I think that's really important. I think also in the way that I do events, there's something about having the space to be creative, but also having the substance of existing research and acknowledging where things come from.
I remember when you were teaching in independent dance, you had a reading list and references.
Yeah. Well, that would be me in a good place. I think I'm sort of probably more mentioning on the side who I'm reading and what I'm reading. But yeah, it's good to have that. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have one for me?
A book recommendation? Yeah. I read this book, Hybrid Human, from Harry Parker, who I really want to interview in this podcast. He's an artist as well. And it's super interesting. It's about this new technology for when you lost your legs and how do you feel when you're almost half robot and half human, and how people get you. And I found this really interesting because this is not something I experienced. So I like when it gives me another life experience or an idea about how other people can experience life. I also read a book about trans person, non-binary, and same. I found it interesting.
Yeah.
So well, thank you so much. Well.
Come to keep us company.
Laura Doehler, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eileen Paris. It's been an absolute pleasure.
On this beautiful setting.
Yeah, we should do this again.
London Radio, yeah, true. Yeah. I think I could do maybe 10 episodes with you. If you enjoy this podcast, please give it a 5 stars on your favorite platform. It really supports me, and then I can interview all the artists of the world until I die. Merci!